The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I would like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is on the visitor process and how it relates to BNI Connect. So we're going to go through a lot of different tools in the system, from inviting visitors all the way through following up with visitors, including the newer process in BNI Connect, which was just released a couple of months ago, on pre-registering visitors for chapter meetings. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started with the content. This is a live webinar, so if you do have questions as we're going through things, please do feel free to ask them. Be happy to go into depth about anything that you'd like to ask questions about. You can ask questions using the questions panel by typing your questions in as we're going along. If it relates to what we're doing, I'll try to answer it right away as they pop up on my screen. Or if it's something unrelated, we'll cover that at the end of the webinar. The webinar is scheduled for approximately 30 minutes of content. It should take about a half hour to go through the visitor things that I have on my list. At the end, we will open it up for open questions. It could be on this, it could be on anything in BNI Connect that you'd like to talk about. This webinar is being recorded and it will be made available afterwards. You can find all of the recorded webinars in two places. You can find them at youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. So again, that's youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. And this is our BNI Connect recording site where we put up all of our publicly accessible videos. They are things like educational moments, 3 to 5 minute videos about certain topics, as well as on recorded webinars and other instructional videos. So I have a note from Jan that the microphone is cutting out. Is everybody experiencing that problem, or is it just a couple of people? If so, I can try to dial in if that seems to be an issue. Okay. Other people are saying it's okay, so Jan, you may want to check your internet connection. So, all right. So this other place that you can find this information is going to be in the support site. If you go to support.bniconnect.com, again, support.bniconnect.com, that will take you to the support site. You could also get there by clicking this question mark in the upper right-hand corner of BNI Connect. And again, that will take you to the support site, and you will see in the chapter training and documentation, you'll see all the recorded webinars here. For example, here's the webinars from January, and you can also see a copy of this particular presentation from January 10th. So this would be a place to go. Again, the support site, support.bniconnect.com or youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. So let's take a look at the visitor process in BNI Connect. And if you're interested, I have written I think it's a 54-page manual going through all of the process. If you would like a copy of this, just email me, support@bniconnect.com, and I'll send you a copy of this PDF. But really what it starts out with is that there's the flow of visitors in relation to BNI Connect. The first part of that is inviting visitors, and we can do that through the visitor invitation email in BNI Connect, and I'll show you that in just a minute. You can also pre-register visitors before a chapter meeting, and either visitors can pre-register themselves via your chapter webpage or your regional website, or you can register them through the members-only portion of BNI Connect. There's multiple benefits for doing so, including a number of email notifications that happen that way. And finally, you can also follow up with visitors. So after a visitor has attended, the visitor is put into BNI Connect, or they're marked as having attended if they pre-registered. It also puts the credit into the POMS report. And you can also do follow-up emails with visitors if you wish to re-invite them back or find out why they didn't come to the meeting. So let's take a look at some of this in BNI Connect. So the first thing we're going to go over here is the inviting visitors part. And for many of us, we invite visitors all the time, and most of us do that by just, we go to a networking event or something like that. We meet somebody and say, hey, why don't you come to our BNI meeting? And a lot of times we just leave it at that. And sometimes they show up and sometimes they don't. A lot of times getting the visitor to come to the meeting may just involve a little bit of follow-up. For example, all the information about where you meet and maybe a little brief introduction as to what BNI is all about. BNI Connect makes it easy to do that by going in through the visitor invitation. Now we get to the visitor invitation by going into the operations menu. So you'll notice these menus up here along the top: network, operations, reports, tools, and admin. Network is all of your social media stuff, your connections and groups. Operations is where we do things in BNI Connect. So we want to perform a function or we want to input data. Reports is where we get all the information back out of BNI Connect. Since we want to access this email invitation tool, we want to go to Operations. So we're going to go to Operations, and this is at the chapter level. Now the place to send the email invitation is through Create Email. And you'll notice three things in here: Email My Chapter, Email Visitor Invitation, and Email Chapter Visitors. What we want to use is the Email Visitor Invitation. And if I click on this, you'll see kind of like a little Mad Libs form. What this is going to do is you just need to fill in this little bit of information, and it will insert that into a custom email template that has just the right amount of information to get to your potential visitor. So let's say that I wanted to invite, let's see, Marky Mark to the chapter. And the email address, now I'm going to put my own email address in so you guys can all see what this visitor invitation looks like. Now the next part is a personal message, so you can put in whatever you'd like here. This is going to be the first paragraph of the email. So you do want to personalize this a little bit, make it sound like it's coming from you. Maybe you can say, hey, it was great meeting you at the networking event last week. Love for you to come visit our BNI chapter, or maybe it's our BNI chapter is having an open house, a visitor's day this coming week. Would love for you to attend the meeting. Whatever you'd like to put here. And then we just click Send. Now again, it's going to take this information and insert it into a custom email that goes out to the email address that you have listed here. So I click Send, and in a couple of seconds I should get that in my email. And here it is. So this email just came through. Now we can see it's an invitation. My BNI chapter wants to meet you. It comes from me, and it has a nice branded BNI graphic. If anybody's familiar with the postcards that a lot of chapters have available in their chapter boxes, this is the same graphic that's on those postcard invitations. It then puts in, Dear Marky, and great to meet you at the networking event. Love for you to come visit the chapter. It then lets them know that they're cordially invited to the name of your chapter, where we meet, and the address so that they can find it. Lets them know the time and the day that we meet. It also gives a little bit of information about what BNI is and a call to action to respond to you so that you can reserve a place for them to come and visit the chapter. It signs it from you and from your company name. And if they reply to this message, the response will go back to your regular email. Now, one thing about the visitor invitations, it's not keeping track of these in any way, so it doesn't put the names into a database or anything like that. It's just a very quick, simple way to get a professional and branded invitation out to the people that you'd like to invite to your chapter meeting. So again, that's located under Operations Chapter, Create Email, and Email Visitor Invitation. So that's the first step of the process, inviting visitors. And again, that's done through that visitor invitation email. The second part of the process is, now that somebody has accepted the invitation and they'd like to register for a chapter meeting, they can now do that through BNI Connect, and there's some great benefits for doing so. There's two ways to pre-register a visitor for an upcoming meeting. The first of which is on the regional and chapter websites, and the second of which is in the members-only portion of BNI Connect. So let's say that we're out there on the internet and we're at a regional website. So I'm going to go to my test region up here in Antarctica, antarcticreferrals.com, and let's say I heard about BNI, I'm thinking about going to visit a chapter, or let's say that I'm even a chapter member and I met somebody that wants to register. Well, what I would do is go to my regional website, go to Find a Chapter, do a search, say, yeah, you know what, I think I'd like to visit the Frozen Assets chapter up here in Antarctica. They look like they meet at a good day and time for me. So I'm going to click on that chapter. Now this chapter doesn't have any people in it yet. Again, we don't have a huge population up there in Antarctica. That means my profession's probably open, so I'm going to go ahead and register to visit this chapter. I can click on Visit this chapter, and all I need to do is fill out the details. What date would I like to visit? And there's only future dates available. I can't click a meeting in the past. So let's say I'd like to visit next Tuesday on April 1st. I can put my name in, my company name, phone number, email address, and I can choose my industry and classification. If I don't know my classification, I could always choose that and type in my classification as well. I can type in who invited me. And then I do have to put a CAPTCHA code in to make sure that I'm not a robot going around trying to sign up to multiple chapters here. Once I've done that, I click Submit. Now, a couple of cool things happen when you register to visit a chapter. And as a registered visitor now, I get a notification immediately saying, thank you for registering to visit this chapter. The registration is confirmed. Lets me know what date I've registered, what time the meeting is, the location of the meeting, the time of the meeting, the day, the chapter name. Remember to bring lots of business cards. All this helps to reinforce that they are now expected to go to the meeting. A lot of times we may invite visitors in passing. So we'll say, hey, you know, it'd be great if you came to the chapter meeting. Oh, yeah, you know what, I'll be there. Then, 6 o'clock on Tuesday morning, they may just hit that snooze button. Nobody was really expecting me there. Now there's an expectation. People are looking forward to seeing that person there. Another benefit of this is that this person, myself in this case, I'll get a reminder 2 days before the chapter meeting. So 2 days before the 1st of April, I'll get another reminder saying, hey, just a reminder, you were scheduled to visit that chapter. This will hopefully also reinforce visitors showing up to the chapter meeting. The other great thing about this function is that it's not just the visitor that gets an email, but the chapter is also notified. So coincidentally, just a little while ago, I'm the president of my chapter in Wakefield. I just got a visitor notification for somebody that's going to be visiting our chapter this on February 3rd for our Visitors Day. So when somebody registers to visit your chapter, the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, all of the visitor hosts, and the director consultant for the chapter all get a notification letting them know that somebody's going to be visiting. This is really helpful from a leadership team perspective and from a visitor host perspective so that we can, one thing to let our venue know how many people we're expecting. Another thing we can do is actually pre-follow up with this visitor. We could give, in this case, Evan a call to say, hey, we're looking forward to meeting you. I noticed that you're in trades. We have some other people in trades in our chapter that are looking forward to meeting you as well. As a member, you can also log into BNI Connect and register your potential visitors. Now, the place to do that is still under the Operations chapter menu. Under Manage Visitor, you'll see register a prospective visitor. Now the add a visitor is for when somebody's already attended a meeting. Register a prospective visitor is registering them for a future meeting. So it's almost the same thing as you have on the regional website. The same fields to fill out, the profession, the specialty, the visit date. Again, you can only choose future visit dates. The name, the email address, the phone number. This starts the same process of emailing, letting that registered visitor know that they're expected, as well as the reminder and the notification to the rest of the chapter. The final place that this is available, again going back, everybody has a chapter website. So all chapters do have a chapter website. This is what the default website looks like, but you'll notice that there's a link on all of the chapter websites now that have Visit Chapter. Now again, this brings up the same form. All they need to do is fill it out, and they'll be registered to visit that chapter. Now the other benefits of pre-registering visitors is that there's also a couple of associated reports with this registration process. So if I go to the chapter level reports chapter, at the bottom of the list you'll notice that we added 2 reports here as well. We have the visitor registration report and the visitor not attended report. So the visitor registration report will show us all of our future upcoming visitors. When I pull this report, by default it's going to show us the next week. I can change this. Let's say I want to know all the visitors that have registered through the end of April, and I could click Go. And here you can see, here's the visitor that registered to visit our chapter, their company, their phone number, their email address. We can follow up with them with all this information, and we can see who invited them as well. Now, one of the added benefits, if we have any visitor hosts on the call with us today, is that a lot of times after a chapter meeting, we have to go back to our office and take that chapter sign-in sheet, and hopefully, if you have a couple of business cards, it makes it a little bit easier, but we're going to try to read all the chicken scratch off of that visitor sign-in sheet and enter them into BNI Connect. Now, again, we usually do that. The inputs are done during the operations menu. And normally we would go into add a visitor and fill that all out. Now the good thing about pre-registering is that all we have to do is mark them as having attended. So we can click on Manage Registered Visitors, search for our registered visitors, click Edit. Now we can go in here if let's say that this person calls and say, you know what, I can't visit on that date. I'd like to visit on a different date. You can choose a new date or choose the date that they did visit. You can confirm who invited them. And most importantly, all you would need to do is click on Visitor Attended. So after you've marked Visitor Attended, it will automatically put all of this information into the visitor database for you. So visitor host, do make sure you check for your registered visitors first. It makes it a lot easier to enter that information afterwards. Of course, the other process for entering visitors that already have visited that did not pre-register would just be to click on Add a Visitor and fill out all of the information from scratch. And of course, this will add all of the information into the visitor database as well as populate the POMS report for the person that invited that visitor. The other benefit of making sure that you put your visitors into BNI Connect afterwards, there's a couple of things that now pertain to the follow-up of visitors. So we've gone through how we invite visitors using the visitor invitation email. We've also gone through the pre-registration process, the emails that go out along with that. And now we're getting to the follow-up process. So making sure that you enter your visitors into BNI Connect or mark them as having attended. One of the things that happens when we do that is once we enter a visitor, either mark them as attended or we enter a new visitor, they do get a follow-up email saying, thank you for visiting our chapter. So this is helping to close the communication loop with those visitors. The other thing it does is it does add all of those visitors into our BNI Connect database so that you can follow up with them afterwards. And there's a couple of different ways to follow up with visitors. Now, one of the ways that we can follow up with visitors is through the reports and get the information back out for people that have visited. So if I go to Reports, Chapter, one of the reports in here is the Chapter Visitor Report. And if I click on the Chapter Visitor Report, I can choose a date range. Let's say I'd like to see all of the visitors that have visited so far in March. This will give me a list of all of the visitors. If company names and emails were entered at the time, I would have all their information there as well. I can also export this list to get more details. Now this is great. There's a lot of chapters that may use something like send out cards. This file can then be used to import. If they input the address information, they could use this to import into something like send out cards to do a follow-up that way as well. Now you can also use the system to email directly your chapter visitors. Now this is done, again, back in the Operations menu. So if we go to Operations Chapter, under Create Email, if you remember from before, we have something called Email Chapter Visitors. Under Email Chapter Visitors, what this will do is this will allow us to select a certain subset of visitors. So we can just choose, let's say we wanted to re-invite everybody that has visited so far this year because we're having a Visitors Day coming up in April. We'd like to invite all those people back. Or we can, let's say we were having a stack day just for accounting professionals or for the trades. We could just choose certain categories from the list as well. When I click Next, it'll give me all of the email addresses that were entered into the visitor records. I could then copy these and start up an email and put them into an email sending out, let's say it was an invitation or a follow-up. Now on a regional level, there's also the same tools that you can use on a regional scale to look at multiple chapters at one time. So for more information on the regional level tools, I do invite you to one of our director-only webinars, usually held on the first and third Fridays of each month. All right, so what I'd like to do right now is to open it up for any questions. So if people have questions about how the visitor process works here in BNI Connect, again, today what we covered was going through the invitation email inviting visitors, pre-registering visitors, so the self-registration on the website and the ability for members to pre-register visitors, and also the follow-up. So we have the visitors that have attended. It updates the POMs as well as the follow-up emails that are available and the reports in the system. Now, again, if you'd like a copy of this particular document, please just email me, support@bniconnect.com. This document goes through all of the different steps, gives you details, and how to do each of the things here within the visitor process in BNI Connect. All right, so again, if anybody has any questions, I would like to answer those questions at this time. They can be on the visitor process or anything else in BNI Connect. All right, let's see. Patisse says, how do we edit visitor information after we've previously entered their visit? Now, Patisse, that depends on whether or not you're a visitor host or if you have access to the editing function. But the way to edit visitor information would be to go to Operations, Chapter, Manage Visitor, Manage Visitor. So there's Manage Visitor for managing all of the visitors that you've input that didn't pre-register. We can choose a specific date range to search for those visitors that have been entered. So I can see the 4 visitors here. Now let's say I need to update the details for Jason Souza here. I could click on the Edit button. This would allow me to go in and change any of the details. Let's say if they have their wrong category chosen here, they're really financial services as opposed to a financial advisor. I could add address details in here if I need to. The only thing that we can't change on this is to change who invited the visitor. And the reason for that is because that person was given credit in the POMS report. Now, in the next release of BNI Connect, there are going to be some slightly different features when it comes to how it gets entered into the POMS, but for now, that's the only thing on here that can't be changed. Now, again, depending on your access level and what roles you have, you may or may not have permission to manage the visitors, but that is the process for doing so. So does that help, Patisse? You're welcome. Lindsay says, I really like the new visitor entry system. So do I. Again, it's as a director consultant and as a leadership team member of my chapter, I have found this incredibly helpful. One of the cool things about it is that it's not just people that have been told to go and register on the website, but we're finding that just people that heard about BNI that want to go visit a chapter are using this tool to pre-register for meetings. So they're just finding the function available to them. So we've already seen this increase visitors to chapters. Let's see, Michelle says, so does the visitor host enter visitors usually, and members should enter when you invite them? And then would the membership committee head follow up? Well, the process for the entry and follow-up is slightly different from region to region. I can tell you that in our particular region, our process is that we hope that our members pre-register our visitors. After the chapter meeting has happened, we have a particular visitor host that's in charge of the data entry in our chapter. So this person, Jan, goes in and she checks all the registered visitors. If they registered, marks them as attended. Otherwise, she goes to the add visitor function and puts them all in. Then what she does is she lets us know on the leadership team. She actually follows up with each of them personally as the lead visitor host and thanks them for coming to the meeting. She then also notifies the rest of the visitor hosts and the leadership team that they have been entered into BNI Connect, and some or all of the rest of us follow up with that visitor as well. So does that make sense, Michelle? And again, that's just how we do it in our particular region. Each region may have a slightly different process for who follows up with who. It also depends on the size of your chapter and things like that. So hopefully that makes sense, Michelle. And again, that was the last question that I have on the list. Do we have any other questions about visitors or, again, anything else in BNI Connect? I'd be happy to answer those questions. All right, let's see. Michelle says, when someone does not come that received an invitation, is there a way to email another note to them? So when you've emailed, you've used this create email, email visitor invitation to invite somebody, there's no record in the system at all. This, all you would need to do is just send out another invitation. For somebody that has confirmed, Yes, what you can do is, let's say that somebody confirmed, they registered to visit the meeting, and they didn't show up. What you can do is you can go in and, let's say, go into the Manage Registered Visitors. And I had put myself in as a test a while ago, and I never showed up on 123. Actually, I did show up to that meeting, but I wasn't a visitor. So let's say that we needed to, this person didn't show up, they wanted to come next week. What we could do is click on Edit and change the date. So let's say that this person, myself, instead wants to come on the 27th to the next meeting. I could do that. It would then resend out the registration email. So in a second I should get another email saying you're now confirmed to visit, and here it is. I'm now confirmed to visit on the 27th instead. The rest of the leadership team got that as well as the visitor host. Now let's say that this person says, you know what, stop sending me emails. I don't want to come to your meeting. That's okay too. You can delete that person by clicking on the delete button. So does that help, Michelle? All right, what other questions do we have? All right, while you're thinking up any last-minute questions, just a couple of reminders. Again, this will be made available as soon as possible at youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. We also have a ton of information. Now, if you're curious about any of the things, especially what we talked about today, if you would like just to help on one particular topic, just click any of these little question marks next to a function, and that will take you to the help topic just on that one particular function. Or, of course, if you go to support.bniconnect.com, and you can do that through, again, clicking on this big question mark in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you to the support site, and we have tons of documentation up there as well. Finally, if you could go to facebook.com/BNI Connect Global and give us a like up there. We do webinar announcements, tips and tricks, and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook site as well. So I'd love it if you give me a like up there as well. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I will wish everybody a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much for being here today. Our next webinar is going to be maintaining your chapter website, and that's going to be tomorrow at 10 a.m., 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and it would be great to see people on that webinar as well. So please invite your chapter webmasters. If you found today's session useful, please let your chapters know about all of these webinars. We have a full slate for April as well on a number of different topics. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Happy connecting.